let me ask it now. And are you sure that you want to have a child with high self-esteem? Are you really sure? It seems to come what most people say. They say, yes, definitely. Without thinking about it, yes. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? Because the workshop is around how to nurture self-esteem. But really need to have a look at that. And are you really sure you're wanting that? Because it comes with conditions. It comes with responsibilities, which it's far easier to be ignorant and just, this is how it is, as opposed to, as Jerry has shared, realize that it actually comes with curveballs which we don't necessarily anticipate. So my question really is that. And I ask that because if you think about it, a child who has a higher self-esteem, and we look at that word self-esteem, it means I'm esteeming myself. I value myself. That's what esteem is. I value who I am. And if I value who I am, I'm going to value my thoughts. I'm going to value my reasoning. I'm going to value my ideas. And if I start to value them, I'm going to expect that you're going to value them as well. And I'm going to start telling you my ideas, and I'm going to expect that you're going to listen to them. And actually, I'm going to expect you're going to act on them. Because, hey, pal, we're in this relationship, and we're colleagues now. We're equals kind of scenario. I mean, that's what you do. You're building up your child to believe that they're empowered. And the question that I ask is, well, who are they going to be empowered with? Who are they going to take on? Who are they going to challenge because they think that what you just said is not a good idea, and I think that what I have is a better idea? And don't be mistaken, this isn't just teens. We're talking 3- and 4-year-olds who maybe before did it naturally, and was part of the natural process of a 3 and a 4, but quickly that squashed out of them. But now you're going to be consciously learning skills which is going to be empowering them and supporting and accelerating and igniting that belief about themselves. And the thing is once they've done that, and my experience is actually empowering someone is the easy part. It's how to then support them in being empowered in such a way that it doesn't make you feel really miserable and like, whoa, what's going on here? Because what happens in any process is that you have, for example, let's say that there's a pendulum like this, where on this side of the balance beam of the pendulum, your child might be disempowered, doesn't have a high self-esteem, is not confident for whatever the reason. And even if they're not extreme, just bear with me for this conversation. We're now going to be really learning new skills, which is going to give them a voice. It's going to make them feel more empowered. It's going to give them the confidence to express themselves because you are creating that space. And what happens is that pendulum starts shifting on the other side. Now your child thinks that, yeah, actually I have a right to. And the challenge is they start now expressing that, and what we say here is they start vomiting it out. They start like going, no, but I have a right, and you can't do that. And they start telling you as if they're like these arrogant people who think they're entitled to know everything, right? And you sit there going, this is not what I bargained for. I said I want my child to have high self-esteem. I didn't say I wanted my child to be a brat. Right? Because your child now shifting into this scenario where they're just demanding, they expect it to happen, they're calling you names, or they're really letting you know, because that's what you said, right? You want them to be able to express themselves. The challenge then is how do you bring them back to a part where they still are empowered, but they're empowered in a way that's constructive now, not destructive to the relationship that you have with them. But that's a skill set, and in our experience, unfortunately, they have to go through that initial phase. They have to go through this phase where they just start blah, 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 until they get an awareness and support from you to bring them back on track. The challenge is that that's a difficult process. This is actually the easy one. Because you can just go to a child and say, I really would like to hear what you say. The door is open, tell me. When they start telling you, and it starts pushing your buttons, then you start realizing, hang on, I didn't quite mean it that way. I wanted you to share with me as if we can solve this together, not just demand that I better change my life and etc., etc. Right? And that's really the challenge, is that people spend so much time thinking that the empowerment process is what makes a difference. That's how we handle an empowered child, which is even more important, because if you have an empowered child and you do not know how to work with that, you will end up just crushing them right back at square one again because you have no idea what to do. They will absolutely make your life havoc if you do not know how to work with them in that space. Work with that energy, which is now you're starting to unlock and unleash. And the challenge is when our children are in this space feeling disempowered, we want them to be really empowered and strong and powerful people. I mean, that's a fantastic gift. Our challenge is how do we support them in that, as well as being assertively and constructively empowered so that actually it doesn't destroy their relationships. And that is my experience of what we're looking at as part of the challenge, is that process. And Jerry, what you mentioned at the beginning is correct. You're opening up that door, and now you're getting curveballs probably, which you just didn't anticipate, because the skill sets that you currently have or had prior to that, and now here, just they don't survive in this area. You need another set of skills. And that's where it's a whole scenario. My question to you, as I think I'd asked in the last workshop you were in, is out of a choice, which would you still have? Something on this side where you're still unhappy about what's going on, not quite knowing why it's going on, still feeling a bit concerned that your child's not necessarily going to really have that strong sense of going forward, or you're in this space here where you know that even though you're now stumped by a challenge that you could not have thought of before, you know that somewhere there is the possibility for you to have that skill and you can resolve that. Whereas in this space, you're ignorant, unaware, and you're just bumbling through life. Whereas with your emotional intelligence increasing, with your skill sets increasing, new doorways open up which could never have opened up before. So the challenge is there, as you correctly mentioned, the game is on. You've upped your game, and with that pace changes now. This one is far more empowering because you can always do something about this space. That space, well, if you don't know and you don't have skills, you've only got one left, and that is whatever your parents did to you. Mm. And if you, as I think if I recall you mentioned before, that's not working for you. Something has to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.